at SBIR, hosted by Foresight Science and Technology. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Charles Cleland from the USDA SBIR program. Dr. Cleland has been part of the SBIR program as a program director for the USDA since 1987, so for almost 30 years. During that tenure, Dr. Cleland has been a champion of the SBIR program, and especially in introducing a number of different innovative programs and support efforts for the small businesses that participate in SBIR. Before Dr. Cleland gets started, I want to ask that we will have a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. To manage the questions, please enter your questions in the chat box. We'll record those as the presentation goes on or at the end, and then we will address those questions at the end. So please help me welcome Dr. Charles Cleland from SBIR USDA program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you today and to have a chance to tell you about the SBIR program here at USDA. So this is the sort of an introductory slide that shows 8 different pictures of 8 different projects we have supported over the years. Needless to say, it's a very broad program, which is a point I will get across to you as we talk. But in any event, let's move on. As you probably know, SBIR is a government-wide program. There are 11 federal agencies to participate, and they basically fall into 2 different categories. There are those that award contracts and those that award grants. And we are one of the agencies that awards grants. And what that means is that the ideas are investigator-initiated. Basically, the ideas come from you, not from us. We don't tell you what to work on. We give you broad guidance on what would be appropriate, but then the actual ideas and the submissions come from you, and you tell us what you would like to work on and try to convince us and the reviewers that you have a good idea. So this is a grant program, and that makes it quite different from a contract program like at DOD or NASA or some of the other agencies. Our awards, the primary criteria we use are scientific technical merit, the PI or PD and company qualifications, and the commercial potential. Obviously, the whole point of SBIR is to try and commercialize technologies through this program. We use a confidential peer review system. It's very similar to that used by National Science Foundation and the National Institute of Health. We draw reviewers almost exclusively from the nonprofit sector, that is universities or government laboratories, and it's all done on a confidential basis. Funds, this 4th point says funds are allocated in proportion to the number of proposals received. That simply means that we have, as you'll see in a minute, we have 10 topic areas, and if one topic area has twice as many proposals as another, it will typically have twice as many awards. So we don't prioritize between our topic areas. We don't say that plants are more important than animals or vice versa or anything of that sort. So we're trying to fund roughly the same percentage across the program. Finally, subcontracting to universities and USDA labs, or other government labs for that matter, are permitted and encouraged. Obviously, the proposals have to come from a for-profit U.S.-owned small business, but you are allowed to subcontract or you are allowed to have people involved with your project as consultants or through a subcontracting arrangement, and there are some restrictions on that, but those kind of arrangements are strongly encouraged. We're one of the smaller agencies. I perhaps should have said at the beginning, we do not have STTR, Small Business Technology Transfer Program. That program only exists with the 5 larger agencies, since it has a threshold for participation of $1 billion in extramural R&D, whereas with SBIR the threshold is $100 million in extramural R&D. So we only have SBIR, and because we're one of the smaller agencies, our awards are not as large as at some of the larger agencies. So our Phase 1 grants run 8 months and are currently at $100,000. The Phase 2 grants, which are 2 years, are currently at $600,000. No-cost extensions are readily available for either Phase 1 or Phase 2. That's pretty much automatic. If you need more time, you can get it. You won't get more money, but you certainly can get more time. We have commercialization assistance programs for both Phase 1 and Phase 2 winners, which we strongly urge companies to participate in. We think it can help them quite a bit. And the other point I'll make here is that unlike some of the agencies, particularly the contract agencies, we are available at any time. You can contact us. That makes no difference whether our solicitation is out or not, whether it's 2 days before the deadline or in the middle of the winter or whenever. We're always happy to talk with you, so don't hesitate to get in touch with us if you have questions. Okay, let me take a few minutes to go through our topic areas to give you a feel for the breadth of this program, because there's a lot more here than what meets the common eye in terms of what do we mean by agriculture. Well, the four topic areas on the left are what I would refer to as production agriculture. This is the more traditional agriculture. So obviously farmers can grow plants or they can raise animals. In the case of the plants, we divide the proposals into either biology-oriented or engineering-oriented. But in both cases, the main focus is going to be on the cereal grains, rice, corn, wheat, things of that sort, on the legumes, primarily soybean or potatoes, and of course some occasional other plants too, but those are the main ones that would be the focus of proposals. On the biology side, they'll be dealing with genetic efforts to improve the plants, better ways to grow the plants, perhaps better ways to fertilize the plants, things of that sort. Whereas on the engineering side, we're going to be getting into maybe sensors to detect things about the plant condition, developing equipment to grow plants in a greenhouse or in a controlled environment situations. So, but in both cases, there's a lot of emphasis on production, that is growing of the plants, and on protection, protecting the plants against pathogens, insects, frost, drought, things of that sort. On the animal side, the main focus is going to be on the cattle, swine, and poultry, with minor other animals coming in occasionally, sheep, for instance, goats. But the big three will be the predominant focus, and this includes both biological approaches and engineering approaches. A lot of focus on protecting animals against all sorts of diseases that are prevalent, and so this is a broad area of dealing with these issues in the animal agriculture side. The aquaculture is aquatic farming. So whereas the first three topic areas are terrestrial, the last one, aquaculture, is aquatic. And so here we're talking about mainly fish and shellfish. It could be freshwater or marine. It can be plants. It's mostly animals, but it can also be plants. So there are some proposals dealing with growing seaweed for food, or growing microalgae as food for oysters, for instance, or for value-added products that one can derive from those microalgae, be it specialty chemicals or biofuels or whatever. So all of those kinds of things would fall into the aquaculture realm. Once a farmer has raised a crop or raised animals, then the question is, what happens? And they get converted into either food or non-food products. The food science and nutrition, so both food science and nutrition and biofuels and bio-based products are basically post-farm gate value-added processing agriculture materials into.
I just wanted to write down, or if I could write down the Wi-Fi password, I want to put it on my phone.
And food processing, we're dealing with food engineering, we're dealing with nutrition issues, we're also dealing with a lot of food safety issues. On the biofuels and bio-based products, now we're dealing with non-food products that are derived from agricultural materials, largely plant materials. And in this case, this could be biofuels, it can be lubricants, it can be cosmetics, all sorts of things that are produced from plants. Soybean oil can be converted into food materials or into non-food materials. And so either way, we're always interested in the value-added processing of materials into products that will then come back to benefit the farmer. Finally, and then we go on to air, water, and soils. This is our environmental topic. Agriculture obviously has a major impact on the environment and vice versa. And so we're trying to deal with mainly water issues and soil. I would say water is the most important of the three here. Water quality and water availability, irrigation issues of all sorts, but also soil fertility, soil erosion. These are also important issues. And as I like to say to people, if you've ever been downwind of an animal production facility, you know what I mean by air can be an important component too. What can we do to alleviate some of the pollution that's put in the air from these kind of facilities? So all that is part of the program. The next one, forest and related resources, is there because the Forest Service is part of USDA. So this topic area is largely focused just on the woody resource, better ways to grow trees, to harvest trees, and to process trees in a number of value-added products, be they lumber, furniture, or any number of specialty chemicals, or biofuels, any number of things. And also there's a lot of emphasis here on protecting trees against insects. There are millions of acres out west that have been killed by the mountain pine beetle, for instance. We have projects underway dealing with that kind of issue, but also fire. Anybody who lives out west knows what I mean, how serious these fires can be. And we're supporting projects dealing with fire detection and how to fight fires and dealing with the aftermath of fires and things of that sort. And the last two topic areas are a little bit different. Both of these, rural and community development and small and mid-sized farms, in this case, the focus is not so much on developing innovative new technologies, although that could be part of it. The real focus is on the innovative application of technology in ways that will either benefit rural residents or rural communities in the case of the first topic area, or small farmers, small mid-sized farmers in the case of the second topic area. So for rural development, there really is no agriculture per se in our rural and community development topic area. We're dealing with things like healthcare, education, transportation, information services, energy issues, rural energy, all these sorts of things are fair game. And on the small farm side, any number of specialty crops, things that would benefit a small farmer and help a small farmer to be more profitable, have a more sustainable operation are fair game. So again, the ideas come from you, not from us. We're giving you the opportunity, and your imagination can really go on those. Here we have a list of technology areas. I put this up just to give you a feel for, again, how broad this program is. You might not think of robotics on the left or acoustics, again on the left, as being agricultural in nature, but in fact, we've had several projects over the years that have made use of robotics that have been very important for actually some of our biggest success stories have involved robotics. And we have projects underway for robotic harvesting of oranges, for instance, and things of that sort. On acoustics, if anybody's ever seen one of these net pens offshore in the Puget Sound where they grow salmon, the question is, how many salmon do you have in one of these net pens? Well, you can't exactly go in there and count them, and so what they do is use sonar or other acoustic techniques to estimate the biomass and how many fish they have. Excuse me. So at any rate, again, this list is simply to emphasize the great breadth of this program. This is the history of our funding. Our budget hasn't changed too much. It's actually going up now, but we're not sure. In any event, phase one, we've been funding anywhere from 10 to 20%, usually closer to 15%. And at phase two, it's usually 50% or slightly higher. This shows the geographic distribution of our awards. And I show it to emphasize that agriculture, excuse me, agriculture is very widespread across the country, and it's so many of the small rural states have had a good success with this program, depending on where you're located. And so all the states have had awards, and we've also had awards in places like Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and if you wonder what MH is, that stands for the Marshall Islands out in the Pacific Trust Territories in the West Pacific. So we have a broad reach, and we're happy to get proposals from anywhere. If you're going to submit a proposal, you have to go through grants.gov. That's simply the way the process works. It may seem daunting at first, but it really isn't that difficult. But you got to allow close to a month to complete the registration process. You have to first get a DUNS number, then go to SAM, System for Award Management, and then go to grants.gov itself. And the whole process can take 2, 3, 4 weeks. So allow yourself plenty of time and make sure you get this done well in advance of the deadline so that there isn't any question about your eligibility, your ability to submit a proposal. Our review process, again, I mentioned it's a confidential peer review. With panel phase one, there are panels that are assembled for each topic area, plus usually some ad hoc reviewers in addition. That is people outside who are not part of the panel. And phase two, again, the same general process. These are the most important selection criteria: scientific, technical merit, commercial potential. And for phase two in particular, degree to which phase one feasibility has been demonstrated. That's very important. Again, all applicants will receive verbatim copies of reviews. You don't have to ask for this. You'll get them. minus the name of the reviewer and minus the score, but you'll get the verbatim text. At phase 1, if you're not successful, you're free to resubmit and apply again. Phase 2 applicants can only apply once. You have more than one opportunity to submit a phase 2 application, but you do it once. Strongly encourage university and government scientists to participate. Now, at phase 1, normally no more than a third of the phase 1 award can be allocated to outside sources. There can be exceptions to that, but it's rare. At phase 2, up to a half could go to outside sources. Scientists from universities could be the PI on a project, but they would have to go less than 50% at the university because they have to be at least 51% with the business during the period of the grant. And most of the time they aren't going to want to do that. So in any event, they can certainly participate through contracting or consulting. A company can arrange to rent space at universities. That's perfectly acceptable. But if they're going to give you free space and so on in the last bullet, that causes some concern as to whether you're really a legitimate business or not. Advice for phase 1. Well, as this indicates, obviously you need to have a vision of where you're going. You need to know where you think you're going and be able to convey that in writing to the reviewers. So you need to focus on some critical problem, and one of the biggest issues in a program like ours is to be able to identify a suitable problem. Since we don't tell you what to work on, you need to find one that is going to resonate with the reviewers, and the best way to figure that out is to talk to experts in the field before you submit and make sure that they think it's an important issue. So then you got to sell the importance, give a detailed experimental plan, provide insight into its commercial potential, and so on. Another point that isn't listed here that I will mention is that it's very important also to solicit letters from potential end users indicating that they are supportive of what you're trying to do, that they might be interested in purchasing or working with you in the future, and things of that sort. That can go a long way to showing reviewers that there really is interest in your technology and that there's a reasonable likelihood that it might get commercialized if the research is successful. Factors that improve chances for commercial success. Well, obviously high scientific technical merit. Having good consultants is important. You don't have to have consultants, but they can certainly help in most cases. And a CRADA can be certainly very helpful. A CRADA stands for Cooperative Research and Development Agreement. This is where a company signs an agreement with a government lab, and we're particularly interested in doing when you do it with the USDA lab, to get access to their intellectual property and their expertise. You work together to further the objectives of your project. Typically, you provide some funding to the ARS lab so that they can do some work in support of your project, and that funding can come from one of our awards. So, and I would say that if a project has a CRADA, which has to be verified by having a letter from the USDA ARS stating that, but if that's indicated by a letter, then when it comes time to evaluate the proposal, if it is considered meritorious enough to be in the funding range, it'll get extra consideration because it has a CRADA. So it definitely is in your advantage to, and I'll talk more about this in a minute. It's very important to try to have somebody involved in your company with business expertise. You may, if you're a brand new company, You may not have that yet, and maybe you need to find someone who can advise you, or possibly in return for a small bit of equity, provide free advice or very inexpensive advice. But business expertise can certainly help make a project more viable and more competitive. Having good phase 3 partners is important. Having a marketing plan, knowing how you're going to go about marketing, whatever it is you're trying to develop. And of course, taking advantage of our commercialization assistance programs. Okay, now here, the USDA has something called the Office of Technology Transfer, OTT. They're located in Beltsville, Maryland. It's part of the Agriculture Research Service, but they service technology transfer issues for the whole department, mainly ARS, but also the Forest Service and occasionally other parts of the department. And the Agriculture Research Service generates all kinds of research findings, and many of these findings are ready to be enter into an agreement with people to license them, or enter into a CRADA with one of the ARS scientists. And so this gives you the website address for them. And if you're interested in this possibility, you should go there and see what kinds of technologies they are interested in finding partners for, and look into the possibility of setting up some kind of partnership with one of the ARS labs. It can certainly help you both in your research, but also help you with the competitive process, as I mentioned earlier. This is our solicitation schedule. So the 2017 solicitation will be released, we think, mid-late June, could be early July. The deadline will be the 6th of October of this year. The panels will meet next January and February. Decisions will be made by early March, and the grant period we anticipate will be from like June 1 through January 31. For phase 2, obviously you have to be a phase 1 winner to apply for phase 2, but for phase 2, the solicitation is going to be released in late November of this year. The deadline will be I think the 2nd of March of next year, and the grant period would run from September through August, as you see. This is our website. I won't say much about it other than this is where you go to find the RFA and other information that could be of interest to you. And I encourage you, if you're interested in pursuing the possibility of doing something with us, you need to go to this website and take advantage of the information that's there. These are the people involved. You'll see my name here several times. That's only because I'm sort of helping out with several of the different programs at the moment. But we have a different national program leader in charge of each of the topic areas. And then we have Scott Dockham, who's a program coordinator, and Eldon Hawks, program specialist, who are critical to the administration of the program. So if you're interested, for instance, in aquaculture, the person you would want to first get in touch with is Gene Kim, because he's the NPL who oversees that topic area. If you can't reach him, you can always get in touch with me, but I used to run that topic area. But in any event, same thing is true with rural development. Brent Elrod is the current person. A new person actually is going to start next year, and that will be, I think, in our new program, in our new RFA. Bob Smith is in charge of animals, and so on. So it depends upon which area you think you're interested in as to which person you ought to get in touch with. This is our contact information, or this is my contact information, I should say. If you go to the RFA, you can get the phone number and email for each of the NPLs. But if for any reason you can't reach somebody, you can always get in touch with me. Happy to talk with you. Let me end this talk with a few examples of projects that have been successful and we think are worth showcasing. This first one is a company in Wisconsin. They have formed a close working relationship with the Forest Products Lab, which is the premier forest research facility in the Forest Service. And what they've been doing is looking into the use of branched timbers. Obviously, lumber is cut straight, and trees that have branches are typically, when they have branches, those parts of the tree aren't utilized when it comes to producing lumber and so on and so forth. But what they've been able to show is that these branch junctions actually are stronger than sawn lumber. Obviously, the tree has to withstand a lot of force in the wind and so on, and so the trees are really very strong in these areas. And so you can see in some of these pictures examples of where branch timbers are being used for support, and it gives another artistic feel to the building. And so this company, they were first supported back in 2011, but they've had several awards now, and they just provided the main structural materials for a large grocery store in Madison that's just opened in the last year, and been doing quite well. Terrace Energies, this is a totally different kind of project. This is a rural development project. The first one I showed you would have been in our forest and related resources topic area. This one is in the rural development topic area. What this is a BAT, or buoyant airborne turbine. That you can see a picture of the person in the picture there. So you can see this is rather large. This must be 20, 30 feet tall. It's helium filled, in the middle of which is a turbine. The idea, winds are much stronger at 1,000 to 2,000 feet above the ground than at ground level, and much more constant. So the idea is to have this on a tether, raise it up 1,000, 2,000 feet, and where the winds will then generate a more consistent wind energy. The energy is by wire is brought to the ground, and so this is a way to provide a consistent energy source for isolated rural villages in a place like Alaska, where they are so isolated that the only way they can have electricity right now is through diesel fuel, which is brought in once a year by barge up a river. There are no roads. There's no way to fly this stuff in. So this is a way to provide a real benefit to some really isolated communities, and this technology has been generating a lot of interest, not just in this country but overseas also. Third one is would have been funded through our air, water, and soils topic area. This is a small company in the UP of Michigan. It's a very isolated rural part of this country, but it's a technology that came out of Michigan Technology University. It basically involves the enzyme nitrate reductase, which is how plants take nitrate and convert it to nitrite and so on. It's a natural enzyme, and so this is a way to measure nitrate levels in water or agricultural materials. They can use this technology, these tests that they've developed. It's much more benign environmentally, because prior to this they were using cadmium chemistry. Cadmium is a heavy metal and can be a real problem if there's any leakage. And so they've their tests have now been certified by the USGS and EPA, and this is becoming a very standard process for doing environmental testing in water and soil and things of that sort. And the last one is a company called AgriQuest, which is now part of Bayer. This is quite a success in the sense that they were purchased for $500 million. So I'm sure the founders of AgriQuest were quite happy with that. They developed something called Serenade, which is a fungicide. It's a biofungicide. It's been approved for use in organic production. It's non-toxic to animals and honeybees and other beneficial insects. And you can see in the lower right, the picture, you can see some grapes on the left that have been treated and ones on the right that have not. And you can see the fungus, the mildew, downy mildew that is covering the grapes on the right. So this has been a very positive product that was developed some years ago through our program. They've sold millions of dollars of this all over the world, and as I say, they're now part of Bayer Crop Science. So I hope these 4 examples give you some sense of the range of the kinds of projects that we have supported in the past. And with that, I guess I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Cleland. As stated at the beginning, if you weren't able to hear, any questions that you may have, you can just type quickly into your chat box, and then we'll relay them to be responded to. So there are a few questions, Dr. Cleland. One of them, in fact, there are a couple of them about the commercialization plan, but specifically says, can you tell me where I can find information on the commercialization program, and do you have to be a Phase 1 awardee to participate?
Yes, you have to be a Phase 1 awardee, so it's for any Phase 1 awardee. It's free. We pay for it, and the company that offers the program is basically focused on helping companies write better commercialization plans. The commercialization plan is an important part of a Phase 2 proposal. Phase 2 proposals really have 2 parts. They have the technical part, in which the company is showing what results they obtained in Phase 1 to try and convince reviewers that they've met that they've demonstrated technical feasibility, and also what they're proposing to do now in Phase 2. That's one part. The second part is a commercialization plan, which is a 10-page document in which they lay out their plans for how they're going to go about commercializing this technology that they're hoping to develop. So we use a different set of reviewers for the commercialization plans than from the technical part, and they're both important. And so we strongly encourage companies in Phase 1 to take advantage of this training and learn from that. On Phase 2, the commercialization plan involves working with an advisor to help them map out strategies for how to move their product toward the market. It might involve marketing help. It might involve help with finding Phase 3 partners. It might involve any number of different things. What we always tell the companies is, you be proactive and tell them what you need help with, and they'll help you. So that's a more extensive, more involved program than the one at Phase 1. But they're both very important, and we certainly want companies to participate. And in both cases, they're free to the company. So.
Thank you. So the next question, Dr. Cleland, is, does the USDA offer optional Phase 3 SBIR money?
No, we do not. One of our dilemmas is that our budget at or $22 million is rather small compared to the big five, which are all over 100 million, and NIH, which is 650 million, or defense, which is over $1 billion. So we simply don't have enough funds to provide phase 2B funding, for instance, which I know some of the, like NSF does. I mean, it's basic. We have to make a decision. If we were to provide that kind of funding, then we could make fewer awards because there's only so much money. So we've opted to try to make as many awards as we can, utilizing the funding that we have. I don't think any agencies provide phase 3 funding from SBIR funds. They may do it from other funds. But no, we don't have phase 3 funding, if that's what the question.
Okay. There's a few more questions, so we have some time left. Let's see, what's the next one? There's a number of questions about the slides being available. If you will go to Forsyth Street on YouTube, the presentation will be presented there, will be available to you can look at or download anytime you want. So the number of people were asking for that. There's a comment here, says, great presentation, Dr. Cleland. While your program offers a broad range of services, would all proposals that pertain to information technology and transportation reference or support of agriculture? So basically, will the program support information technologies and transportation?
Sure. Well, I can give you an example. Some years ago, we had a project from a small engineering firm in South Dakota, and they were looking at evaluating the condition of the roads in every road in a county. Because as they told me, the roads that run in front of the county commissioner homes tend to get fixed on a regular basis, and the other roads allowed to deteriorate until then they have to do major restoration. So what they did was they got a grant from us to develop a software system that allowed them to go out and they would go out and do engineering analysis of the condition of the roads, both paved and unpaved, and then do a lot of sort of what-if analysis of what is the best, most effective way to take their budget and utilize it for the best results in terms of the road conditions in their county. And they sold that system to, I think, well over 100 counties at one point. So transportation is certainly important if it affects people in rural areas, or if it affects ability to move produce to market or things of that sort. I think it would probably need to be in the rural development or possibly the small farms topic area, but they could fit there. And what was the other one? It was
about IT. So similar question.
Oh, IT. Well, exactly.
IT.
We've had a number of proposals dealing with computer-assisted learning in the education realm. This is in rural schools. We're supporting projects on Indian reservations in South Dakota, or is it North Dakota? I guess North Dakota, and in upstate New York and elsewhere. And so, but also we've had projects looking at improving the IT infrastructure for rural communities where they don't have access to as much. If that broadband access isn't as readily available, or something of that sort. We've had projects dealing with access to broadband, for instance. So there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, the answer is basically, if a person can can make a compelling case that by applying some IT technology in some innovative way, that they will provide real benefit to small rural communities, we're interested. It's of course you have to sell the reviewers on the idea, but that's the whole point. The research that needs to be done there is it feasible to apply this kind of IT technology to this particular problem, as it impacts could be farmers' ability to carry out do their work, or perhaps in small rural communities, things of that sort. So certainly.
Good. So there's another question. It's more of a generic question. Is does the government lab that you are affiliated with offer more testing capabilities in lieu of agriculture? So I believe that this question basically is, what other services do your labs provide in addition to related testing for agriculture?
Well, I guess they mean the USDA labs. I mean, the USDA labs, there are well over 100 of them around the country, and they support all kinds of research in virtually every conceivable arena of agriculture and aquaculture and so on. So I'm not quite sure what services they're looking for. May I just say that, I hope I made this clear earlier, but people should feel free to get in touch with me at any time, and my contact information was on that one slide. So send me an email, give me a call. Happy to interact with people at any time. So I'm not sure I'm answering that question, because I think they need to explain what they're talking about.
Okay. The next question is, if a phase 1 concept covers more than one topic, what do you recommend?
I recommend narrowing the focus so that it covers only one topic. I mean, you can't submit a project to 2 topic areas. It has to go to one or another. But that's because there's a different review committee for each topic area, and they don't all meet at the same time. So so basically, but this is a good case where if they're not sure exactly how to structure a proposal along those lines, they should give me a call, and we'll be happy to talk about it, and I can give them advice as to which of the 2 topic areas I think might be the most appropriate, or how they might go about narrowing the focus, or possibly, depending on what we're talking about, they might end up writing 2 proposals, one for each topic area. Now they obviously can't be identical, they have to be different, but that's always a possibility too.
Good. Another question is, does the 12-month no-cost extension apply to all SBIR grants or only the USDA? Not sure you can answer that, but.
Well, I'm only talking about USDA.
Right.
Each agency, one of the things that anybody interested in SBIR needs to understand is that each agency is different. I mean, we all follow the same phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 blueprint, but when it comes to things like no-cost extensions and how much the size of the awards and how the proposals are reviewed and things of that sort, no 2 agencies are exactly identical. So I can't say for sure. I mean, some agencies will give extensions, others may not. You just have to check with the agency that you're interested in.
Right. I think that's an appropriate answer. Good. Dr. Cleland, while you did mention coding as one of the topics, I was wondering if a technology like BPA-free epoxy for food beverage can coating can qualify for USDA.
Sure.
Too specific?
I mean, food packaging is certainly an area where we have had some interesting, innovative proposals in the past, and if somebody can make a compelling case, and I think they probably could in this case, that this is an important problem, and that they think they know how to do it in a cost-effective way, then for heaven's sakes, they ought to submit a proposal. But they probably should talk to Jody Williams first. Dr. Williams is the is the MPL in charge of food science and nutrition, and so I would encourage them to get in touch with her and run their idea by her first before going to the trouble of writing a proposal. But my general reaction is that certainly sounds worthwhile, and I think they ought to consider it. Yeah.
Excellent. There's a few more questions and we're running out of time, so we'll try to make it quick. Regarding IT, what about a proposal to help medical information sharing with rural doctors?
Yes, that's a possibility. We've had a number of rural medicine-oriented proposals, so absolutely.
And the next one is, I think it's more of a generic SBIR question about applying for multiple SBIR programs across different organizations with similar applications, basically with the same innovation.
They can do it, and the only thing is you have to tell each agency you're doing it. So you can submit the exact same proposal to us and NSF, for instance. That happens every year. We have situations like that, and then you can accept a proposal from either agency. You just can't accept one from both agencies in that case. So that would be fraud. But there's no problem in submitting the same proposal in more than one agency. Just be sure you tell each agency.
Right. And then the last question that we can entertain, I think we've somewhat covered it, is I read that our company should send in a brief to establish if our idea is a good fit for the grant process.
Well, they can do that if they wish, but I'd really rather talk to them because in the course of talking with them, we can flesh out some ideas and explain some things that you just can't really do through email. And but yes, they can send us a one-pager if they want, and we can react to it and talk to them about it. But it's certainly not required. And as I say, I think what I would encourage them to do is set up a time to talk to the MPL that they think is the appropriate one, and run their idea by them.
Excellent. So I want to agree with a number of other comments, basically thanking you, Dr. Cleland, for your advice and your information. There are a number of people that want to express their thanks for this talk. Foresight certainly is very appreciative of your participation. As stated before, this presentation as well as others can be found on the YouTube channel for Foresight Street. So I want to encourage everybody to sign up if you have not already for next month's seminar, or basically webinar, which is getting the most out of Foresight reports. So as everyone knows, Foresight is a commercialization assistance provider, and although some of these programs with the SBIR are quite brief, we'd like to express how best to use the information that you do receive. As Dr. Cleland also suggested, he highly encourages participation in the USDA CAP program. So we want to make sure that people get the best or the most value out of those programs. So thank you very much, Dr. Cleland. And thank
Happy
you.
to do it, and I hope I hear from some of the participants.
No reason not to. Foresight itself has done this for many years with the USDA, and it's most helpful. So thank you, everyone. The session is now going to close.
Yeah, thanks so much.